say you're an Aggie?
Yes.
Yeah. Are there any other Aggies in here tonight? Anybody from A&M?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. No? No?
Hey, there's more progressives there than
Am I going too fast for you? Is what I have to tell one quick story that's true. Most of this stuff I'll just kind of make it up as I go along. But Chris, you were kind of have to talk about my commentaries, and that's what really did motivate me over the last several years. Was Channel 8 did give me the opportunity, and for years they pushed me to write, not what I wrote, but pushed me to write. Until we finally hired some new management in the last year or so. I had announced my retirement, and I quite honestly was having second thoughts about this. I don't know, some of you looking around here, I'm sure some of you have already retired as well. I don't know if you went through this or not, but I started thinking for just a little bit, what have I done? What have I done? I'm not sure that I'm ready to leave, even though I was 73 at the time when I retired, which I thought was long enough. But I was starting to have second thoughts. And then, if you remember, I wrote a commentary about Michael Sam in 2014, and about gay rights. He was a gay football player at the University of Missouri. And it was Pride Month in 2021, and some management people from Channel 8 called me, and they said, this is kind of in your wheelhouse. We'd like you to write about gay rights in America. Maybe you could come up with another commentary. Yeah, that is what I do. I mean, Michael Sam did put me on that national map that Kelly was kind enough to reference. But I thought, sure, not a problem. And then this person called me, and again, I promise it's true, and said, I understand that you're going to be writing about Gay Pride Month. I said, yeah, I'm going to do another commentary about that. He said, well, now, remember this. I don't want you to say anything that's controversial, and I don't want you to offend anybody. And I said, I'm sorry, what again? He said, do not say anything controversial or offend anybody talking about gay rights in Texas. So I told him, I said, here's what I'll do. You write the first line of that commentary that meets that criteria, and I'll flesh out the rest of it. And that's when I knew it was time for me to quit. I knew it was time to go. When I wrote that Michael Sam commentary, I was 64 years old. It was 2014. I received more than 6,000 emails from every state in the Union and 27 countries. 27 countries and more than 6,000 emails when I stopped counting from every state in the Union. Now, Mississippi was the last state to respond, but they just got the internet about a year and a half. It really wasn't unexpected. But almost every single email began with, Dear Mr. Hansen, when I found out that an older white gentleman in Dallas, Texas, was writing about gay rights, I was prepared to kick my computer screen in. But I just want to tell you that after I heard your commentary, I was so moved, I was so touched. Because I couldn't believe that somebody from Texas could think like that. And I wrote every single one of them back, and I said, well, you have to understand, we're not all ignorant, racist, homophobic morons. We just elect them to public office. I should have said state highest public office here. But this is what bothers me, as I said a moment ago. We may be a small number in this particular room tonight compared to some Republican events, but we are changing this world, and we have to change this world. We have to change this world. And as the judge said to me a moment ago, the Democrats have to begin by sending and messaging better what we have to stand on as Democrats. I think we do a horrible job messaging to the common person about what it is we actually do and the difference that we have the opportunity to make if they'll just give us that opportunity in office. I'm one of the few people that was not offended, except for the fact that when Hillary Clinton made the comment in 2016 that half of Donald Trump's supporters are a basket of deplorables. And Hillary Clinton apologized for that. Hillary Clinton apologized for saying that half of Donald Trump's supporters are a basket of deplorables. And that offended me. It offended the hell out of me that she would apologize for that. Because as we've unfortunately seen, it is true. Not to mention, she also said it was a basket of deplorables. She didn't say every Trump supporter was a basket of deplorables. Not every Trump supporter deserved to be in the basket. But doesn't David Duke belong in that basket? Isn't David Duke deplorable? Isn't Richard B. Spencer deplorable? Isn't Stephen Miller in Trump's offices deplorable? Aren't the brown-shirted Nazis that marched in Charlottesville carrying their tiki torches chanting, "Jews will not replace us," are they not deplorable? Yes. And Hillary Clinton gets down on her hands and knees and begs for forgiveness because she somehow, some way thought, maybe if I apologize to those people, then they'll vote for me. This is the one thing that, unfortunately, in this day and age, I think is the only thing maybe that Donald Trump did that was right. Donald Trump has never said one thing, not one thing, that would make me consider voting for him for a moment. I don't think Donald Trump has ever said one thing that would make any one of you in this room think, maybe I might want to consider voting for Donald Trump. He refers to us as vermin. He refers to the migrants coming across the border looking for a better life as those people who are rapists and drug dealers, and they are poisoning the blood of our country. And people in Iowa stand and cheer. People in New Hampshire who voted for him stand and cheer. Donald Trump identified his base, albeit as ignorant and racist and homophobic and as Islamophobia as they may well be. But by God, you know where Donald Trump stands. And people to this day, after 4 years of that mess that he put on in the White House, they're still running to the polls to vote for him. While we have people saying, I just don't think I'm going to vote for Joe Biden. I'm just not as happy about Joe Biden as I felt like I wanted to be, so maybe I'll stay home. And everyone who stays home is a vote for Donald Trump.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
I used to be one of those people. I didn't vote for years, as many of you may well know, because I wanted my candidates to be the best possible person for the job, and they had to pass every litmus test that I put before them. And if they couldn't pass every litmus test that I presented for them, I wasn't going to waste my time voting for what I considered the lesser of two evils. And then I found out the hard way a few years ago that sometimes if you don't find the courage and you don't make the commitment to vote for what you might well perceive as the lesser of two evils, the most evil person wins. We've had this ridiculous litmus test, and I do think it's driven by the internet, which I still think social media is going to be the death of our society, as we've always known it to be. But we've allowed these people, these little fat guys sitting in their mom's basement eating Cheetos and banging out words on their computers, to drive the narrative, and then we all run around and respond to it. Because for some reason, we have been too afraid to stand up and say just who the hell we are. We have decided that we're too ashamed sometimes to be in a circle. And the lovely Mrs. Hansen will tell you, I'm not that guy. I sit on my patio, I have as many dinner parties on my patio as I can, and I want to talk politics with everybody. Because one, I'm not afraid of their point of view. And I sure as heck want them to respect my point of view. But as we were talking here at this table tonight, what we've allowed our society to become is so incredibly fractured and broken. I haven't talked to my sister in over 7 years. My sister and her husband live in Colorado. And QAnon, I think they write it in their bedroom. My sister's nuts. I really do believe this. I think my dad dropped my sister on her head with a baby and we didn't realize it for 20 years. I haven't talked to my sister for more than 7 years because our country is so fractured. And it all started with Trump. And he started it with Mr. Obama. The birther conspiracy. the racism, the open hatred for other people. And it all, we lived through, at least many of us in this room did, I certainly did. I lived through the race riots of the 60s, the civil rights marches, and I actually participated in Omaha, Nebraska. I wore a black armband to work. I was there during the Vietnam War, which was tearing this country apart, and I didn't lose any friends. I'm still friends to this day with people I went to high school with who disagree with everything that I believe in politically. They disagreed about our involvement in Vietnam. They disagreed about the race riots and the cause and the effect of what we were trying to change in America, and we're still friends today. We didn't lose friends. I didn't lose friends in the 60s because of my political differences, but I've lost a bunch of them over the last 9 years. I used to play gin rummy every afternoon at Thorntree, every day. Almost 7 days a week. I'm told I'm not allowed to be in that game anymore because I'm too liberal. We don't even talk politics. We're just playing gin rummy. And they kicked me out of the game because they didn't like one of the commentaries that I did on the air. Actually, it was the commentary that I wrote about guns. And all I said was, we're not, if you're a hunter, we're not asking you to stop. You know, if you have a gun, we don't want it. We just want to stop a nut with a gun. We want to find some sensible, common ground. If you're a hunter, we don't want you to stop. If you have a gun, we don't want it. But we do want to stop a nut with a gun. And they all looked at me and said, that's too much. We can't do that anymore. And I've saved a small fortune because I don't play gin rummy with you. But think about the world we live in. They talked about the governor's razor wire at the border. Think about this, and I wrote this in the commentary as well. What would you do if this country was one of those horrible countries that Trump and his ilk referred to all the time? But what if it was a country that was overrun by drug cartels? There were no jobs to provide for your family. When your kid left in the morning to go to school, you had no real idea if that kid would make it home that day. When your husband left the house, when you left the house, you didn't know if you'd make it home. Because you lived in a broken, corrupt country that offered you no opportunities to provide for you or your family. What if that was the United States of America? But if you could get to Canada, if you could just get to Canada, there would be jobs for you. The streets would be safer. Your kids would have a good school. You'd have a steady income so that you could provide for your family. And you would live safely in Canada. But once you got there, the Royal Canadian Mounties met you at the border and told you to turn around because you cannot come in. There's not a single one of you in this room, and there's not a single person in the Republican Party who wouldn't sneak into the forest outside Toronto, hide out for as long as they needed, work their way into the back streets of Toronto, and find a job to take care of their family. Not a single person. If they were facing what many of the people were facing in our southern hemisphere, through no fault of their own except because of the designation of their birth, they want to come to what used to be that shining beacon on a hill. As I also said in the commentary, we should send that Statue of Liberty back. We should give that back to France because we no longer believe that. We no longer live up to that. What's wrong with us? What's wrong with us? And yet we used to be able to have these debates. We used to be able to have these discussions, and yes, and sometimes they became arguments. But we managed to maintain our relationships and our friendships with so many people. I mean, this is the reality of what I hate about being 75 years old today. And I know I look like I'm 71, and thank you very much. but I'm actually 75. This is the only thing that breaks my heart. This is the only thing that breaks me down. I've been fortunate. I've had an angel sitting on my shoulder for almost every one of my 75 years. I've lived an incredibly blessed life. I've been places I never thought I could ever be. I've met people that I never thought I'd ever meet. The lovely Mrs. Hansen and I met Mr. Obama in his office one day. Sat there for 20 minutes talking to this man. I'm fighting back tears that I'm obviously going to shake hands with the former president, the first black president in the history of the United States. And then that very afternoon, I met Stormy Daniels.
Wow.
It was a hell of a day. I mean, it was a hell of a day. Oh yeah, it was a hell of a day. But this is what breaks me down at 75. When I was coming out of high school in 1966, my generation believed that we were going to make it a better world, we were going to make it a perfect world. My generation believed that we would stop the discrimination against our people based on the color of their skin, the religion they chose to follow, or the person they happened to love. My generation knew the idiocy of the discrimination against our people based on the color of their skin, the religion they choose to follow, or the person they happen to love. And my generation was going to change that and fix that. My generation knew that the richest country in the world would never allow people to live on the streets, to live in a car if they were fortunate enough to have one, and we would certainly never send a child to bed hungry, because the richest country in the world would fix that, and we would change that, so that never again a child would go to bed hungry, a person would sleep on a heated grate trying to stay warm in the wintertime, because the richest country in the world had the ability to do that. And at the height of the Vietnam War, my generation knew that we would stop the unnecessary wars that were being orchestrated by old white men in D.C. who decided to send too many young people, too many of them of color, too many of them too poor to have a choice, off to fight a battle that they decided could only be solved with bullets and bombs, because my generation knew how incredibly stupid and ignorant that was, and my generation would put a stop to that. I served in the military in the 60s, and my foot hurt too. Thank you. I was waiting to see who reads the old news. But my generation knew that we would put a stop to these unnecessary wars, because bullets and bombs do not solve our problems. An open conversation, an open dialogue, and an open commitment to find a better way is the only way. We should be doing that at the border. We should certainly be doing it in Israel and Ukraine now. And we should be doing it on almost every street corner in Texas to find a better way. And now at the age of 75, I realize that's not going to happen in my lifetime. I'm 75 years old, and I'm going to be dead and gone. I'm going to be dead and gone long before the discrimination against my neighbors is stopped because of the color of their skin or the religion they choose to follow or the person they happen to love. That demonstration, that discrimination is going to continue and is being driven by the other party. And I'm not going to be able to see the day when that changes. You don't have to look very far to know where the people are. They're in our streets in Waxahachie. I would imagine they're on the streets here in Ennis. You pull up to an intersection, there's a broken down man whose life has come apart, asking for a handout. Kids are going to bed hungry all over Ellis County, all over Tarrant County, all over Texas, all over the United States of America. Because the richest country in the world can't find the compassion to put a stop to that. And young people are still being killed all over the world because primarily old white guys can't find a way to solve and settle their differences without the bullets and the bombs. And it breaks me. It breaks me. But I will not give up. I will not give up. And what Chris was talking about with those kids I used to recognize on the Scholar Athlete program, they give me hope. Coming here to Ennis tonight gives me hope. We have to do as Chris said and Vicki said. We have to make those calls. We have to knock on those doors. We have to stop being afraid to tell people who we are. And I'll leave you with this, or at least I hope I will, and maybe I won't. What happened to the papers I had up there? I used to be able to do, no, mine does. And there they are in my pocket, but I should I knew I'd put them up there, and then I knew if Chris saw it, he would steal this, and I wouldn't be able to close it. I used to be able to do this verbatim. I was speaking in Fort Worth at a Democratic fundraiser one night, and I used to be able to do this verbatim because I stumbled across this a few years ago. And to me, it says everything about who I am. I think it says everything about who you are. And I think it says everything about what we should remind ourselves every day. I attribute this, I'll make sure the attribution is correct. It was written by Lawrence O'Donnell, who used to be a writer for the TV show Westworld. He's on MSNBC now. But in case I'm ever appointed president of Harvard, I want you to know that I correctly attributed it to the right person. But there was a debate when Matt Santos, played by Jimmy Smits, was running for president. They had a debate against his Republican opponent, Arnie Vennick, who was played by the great Alan Alda. And I wish more Democrats would speak like this. I wish more Democrats would embrace this like I have. And when I tell you the story, this is true. When Bach, we call him Bach's boy, when Bach stood up at this card game at Thorntree and started screaming at me, he really did. He looked at me and said, "You're nothing but a damn liberal. You're nothing but a damn liberal." And the whole room gets tense. Everybody's kind of wondering what's going to happen next. And I leaned back in my chair and I said, "Oh, I thought you were going to say something that insulted me." Because when Arnie Vennick threw the line at Matt Santos, the Democrat, and he called him a liberal, he said, "Your problem is, sir, you're nothing but a liberal." And Matt Santos responded with this: "What did liberals do that was so offensive to the Republican Party?" And I'll tell you what they did. Liberals got women the right to vote. Liberals got African Americans the right to vote. Liberals created Social Security and lifted millions of elderly people out of poverty. Liberals ended segregation. Liberals passed the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. Liberals created Medicare. Liberals passed the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act. And what did the conservatives do? They opposed every one of those programs. Every one. So when you hurl that word liberal at my feet, as if it's something dirty, something to run away from, something that I should be ashamed of, it won't work. Because I will pick up that label and I will wear it like a badge of honor. And we all should, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.